We're back talking 2025 NBA draft prospects. Some big ones, some interesting ones. They're all coming up. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I was going to be suspended for this show for unfortunate salary cap oversights. Unfortunately, or luckily for you, I'm just getting away with only a fine, so I'm here. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. So drop a thumb, leave a comment down below. We are here with Tyler Metcalf from No Ceilings, and we're going to be talking about the following draft prospects. Carter Bryant, a guy that is rising up. Jase Richardson, someone who I'm very interested to talk about. Noa Essengue. Nique Clifford. And I really do need to figure out how to pronounce this guy's name correctly. And I'm sure someone will chime in and tell me that it's incorrect. Bogoljub Marković. Bogoljub. Got to get that. I know people are just going to call him Bogey. That's okay. Bogoljub Marković. That's who we're going to be talking about in this episode. It is the anniversary of the opening of the Golden Gate Bridge. So shout out to that bridge, which I went to walk across in 2019. It was the windiest day ever, and got out a little bit. Went, I'm not really that confident of actually remaining on here, not ending up in the nets below. So we'll back a little bit. Not sure we're going to walk across it. And that was my experience. I have ridden across it one other day. That day I was there, just incredibly windy. We might as well stop talking about Golden Gate Bridge factoids and bring in Tyler. All right, so he is back for another round at talking about NBA draft prospects on the show for about the fourth year in a row, I'm going to guess. It is Tyler Metcalf from No Ceilings. Tyler, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this has kind of been a fun yearly recurrence that we have going on now. So always happy to be here.
It is. We've been doing this for a while, and we're here now to talk about a draft class, which every draft class is unique. They're all their own special snowflakes, all that sort of stuff. But it is a very different sort of grouping to what we saw last year. It'll be very different to what we see coming up next season as well. How would you view this class as a general sort of overview? Like, is it super strong? Is it average? How are you looking at the prospects here?
I think it's a good class. I think coming into the year, we're hoping that it was going to be generational or, like elite, like really, really good. And I think it still has the possibility for that, but I think the floor on it has lowered a little bit. Cooper Flag is very much the real deal, like clear-cut number one, and basically any year going back to Anthony Davis aside. But after that, it gets a little hairy. There are some guys who have legit all-star, all-NBA kind of upside, but their floor might be a little lower. So it could end up being an excellent class. But right now, it's just looking like a really, really strong one with a lot of kind of fun possibilities.
It brings me into I ask everyone that's coming on here who's someone you're a little bit lower on, someone you're a little bit higher on. So this is a guy that I'm really interested in, because I initially, when I came in, started looking at this draft class and paying attention to the guys in it. When I took a look at what this guy had in terms of a statistical profile, Jace Richardson's numbers, they look unbelievable. I go, okay, well, this is great. Mm-hmm. All these numbers look fantastic. And then that was about a day before the combine, and he measured at a, let's say not particularly high number. And I lowered myself down. Now, you say you're a little bit lower on him than consensus. I had him as a lottery guy initially. I'm still not sure where I am with him. So I want to hear your thoughts on where, or how low are you? Is the size? Is it just the size? Is that the problem that you've got here with Jace Richardson?
Yeah, I want to start out with the positives, because he's really smart player, really fun footwork, balance, off-ball shot creation, really good shooter, legit pro. But the size is a real big concern for me, and I hate to boil it down to just such a simplified thing like his size, because we see small guards succeed. And if you can play, you can play, and you're going to find your way. And I do think Jace falls into that category. But something that we've seen with him all year, and a lot of this is the role that he was asked to play at Michigan State, but he profiles as an off-ball shooting guard. And at that size, there's just not a track record or real substantial sample size or history of him being able to play point guard and initiate for everyone else. If he goes to a team that already has established jumbo wing big creator, I really like that fit for him, because I think he can do a lot of really fascinating stuff on the court. But him being a 6 foot, or him profiling as a 6 foot shooting guard, is a really, really tough sell for me. So I like the skill set. I like the tools. I like the upside. I think he's going to be a good player. But when I see people mocking him in the top 10 or the lottery, I really struggle to get there, because we have to see so much more on ball and playmaking consistency. The flashes are great, but the volume of it is so minimal that it's tough for me to really be confident that he can play as that starting one on a really good team.
So here's the way I had it, because he originally came in, I looked at all that just before that original measurement. I think initially he might have been listed at 6'4" or something like that. Okay, that I understand that. There's a combo guard part, there's shooting, there's NBA pedigree, there is the passing that needs to be worked on. I said, all right, at pick 10, the Houston Rockets are sitting there. They've been working with a guy that's 5'10" as their point guard currently. Amen Thompson can handle the ball, and he is obviously a guy that functionally can play at center or power forward, and he's big and he's athletic. He can do all these things. Like, okay, maybe that makes some sense, and those guys can pair up. And then there's obviously the Reed Shepherd problem there as well. But is that the sort of like thing where he can be off ball but half on ball, but he needs the big size next to him? Like, for example, it was Josh Giddey, but someone who could actually defend. Like, would that work in a part-time role, or do you think he needs to actually just transition fully to being a point guard? There are, like you said, there are small point guards. There are small backcourts. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And not all. Mitchell's got a huge wingspan, obviously, but there's other factors around that need to fit that together.
Yeah, and I just talking context-wise here, and not necessarily pick, but like that context with Houston, I do think would make some sense, because, like you said, there are guys where he can be insulated a little bit on defense. I think he's a smart defender, but at that size, he's going to get picked on. He's going to get targeted. Someone that I keep leaning towards as like a higher end outcome for him is Mike Conley. Not necessarily Mike Conley in his prime with the Grit and Grind Grizzlies, but like Mike Conley, like we've seen him in his last couple of years with Utah, and now on these Timberwolves teams, where he is kind of playing more as a complementary piece who acts as a stabilizing presence on ball when he's needed, but doesn't demand the offensive generation and creation responsibilities that most point guards do. So a couple other teams that I think make a lot of sense. Denver would make a lot of sense to me. Sacramento would make a lot of sense to me. Orlando makes a ton of sense because you have Franz and Paolo there, and then to initiate most things. And then now you have a reliable shooter with Jace as an outlet, and you also have a backcourt partner in Jalen Suggs who can take those primary defensive assignments. So really, if he lands in the right context, I could see him being one of the better players from this draft, and people who have him in the top 10 right now being able to run victory laps a couple years from now wouldn't shock me at all. I think he's a first round guarantee, but if he goes to the wrong place, I think it could be really tricky. And that's how it is with 99% of these guys anyways.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's a lot of context with so many. After we get out of basically the top two, maybe you can push it to top 5 or whatever. But I think that there's so many of these guys where you go, he's an interesting player. But the next 7 teams have absolutely no need for a point guard here. So It doesn't make sense for him to go at 7. And he goes at 17. You go, well, what a fall. And you go, nah, it actually makes a lot more sense to have a guy in the position that is going to be better for them versus wasting them in a situation. Such is the way that there is a compression of the skill level of a lot of these guys. So I'm not really sure where I'm going to end up on Jace. There's a lot of stuff I like, but again, it is context dependent. And I think, my initial mock, I had him at 10, and I'm going to move him down, I'm pretty sure. But like, I don't think I would put him in some of the other positions that were there. Like, I wouldn't want him playing next to Trae Young. I wouldn't want him with Kobe White necessarily in Chicago as that sort of a backcourt. Like, I don't think that the Spurs don't make any sense if you're picking again at pick 14. Like, that doesn't make sense. So you could easily fall all the way down. But there is a lot to like, I think, there. It's just, again, I just wish that measurement came out 2 inches bigger. That's what she said. That would have been fantastic to see him at least be able to, then you feel more confident off the ball. He doesn't have to be specifically in one spot where everything is tailored there. But, that's how players have success, Tyler. They're in the right spot, and that's how things grow. And we hope that everyone finds their correct area. We're going to come back with a guy who you are a little bit higher on than others. We'll get to that in just a sec. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash, and it is the playoffs. So DoorDash, of course, has got the heat with a slam dunk deal, because that's a basketball word. A slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 25 NBA playoffs. It is called They Swoosh and You Score. And Tyler, how often have you said the word swoosh in relation to basketball? That's 100% the correct answer. We all say swoosh when we're talking about basketball, as DoorDash tells us. But now, if any player in the NBA playoffs drops 50 points or more in a game, Dash Pass members will score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. You place an order of $20 or more, use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and the combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. And that offer is valid from noon until midnight the day after the game. Of course, terms apply. So sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and the code WINGSTOP50. That is Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right. So, Tyler, we are going to get into a guy now that you are a little bit higher on than some others may be across the NBA draft analysis sphere. And I've seen this guy's name really start to jump up quite a bit lately, which I'm sure will be interesting to you. I saw someone mentioning him, hey, maybe he could even go as high as number 3. And that is Carter Bryant from Arizona. And I really only started getting deep into Carter Bryant stuff over the last, say, 3 or 4 days. The age profile is there. Wasn't a high usage guy. He shot the 3 ball pretty well. The defensive stats are eye-popping. Like, they are very, very big numbers. What is the sell on him? So when I don't know if you read that thing or someone said, hey, Philadelphia, maybe you consider him at 3. Do you go, that's outrageous, or do you go, I can see how it works?
When you remove the number of the pick, I think he makes a lot of sense on that team, because he's a low maintenance, incredible defender, low maintenance offensive player, and he's just your modern wing. He's exactly what you want, especially if you already have an established on-ball creator, established offensive floor general. He's not going to be. I shouldn't say he's not going to be. I would be surprised if he grows into like a big time on ball creator. But when we think of 3-and-D plus, like an OG Anunoby, Carter Bryant is who I think of. The way that he might be the best perimeter defender in this class. I think he's up there with VJ Edgecombe. And then you look at this rebounding, the athletic tools, how much he's grown in just these, last 2 years. I saw him at Hoop Summit 2 years ago, and he was just like this. He was a really skinny kid. And a year later, he added about 25 pounds of muscle, and without losing any of that agility and footwork and balance that makes him a really special wing. So he can guard, 2 through 4 pretty easily, some ones. And that baseline of 3-and-D already right off the bat is incredibly encouraging. 3, I don't love. I love him with Philly. I think he makes a ton of sense, but trade back a couple spots. And I said that I was higher on him. It seems like consensus is kind of catching up to him being this top 10 guy. But for a lot of the season, people were thinking that he was going to go back for his sophomore year. And once you dive into the film, once you look at the numbers, the on-off splits are ridiculous. He's just a winning player who got dealt kind of a bad hand at Arizona this year in terms of role and responsibility. He just rocks.
There are a few of these sort of wing-size players in that lottery zone. Like, okay, the one who's probably likely to go to Philadelphia is going to be Ace Bailey. He's around that size. He's considered a higher level, but like he's that sort of size. There's a couple of the French guys. There's Noa Essengue. There's Noah Pender a little bit further down the list is that sort of size player. Essingue is probably a little bit bigger, more of a power forward center sort of a guy. But there's a few of these players in that area, and this is a type of a guy that's gaining buzz at the moment. Is Cedric Coward, obviously decided to stay in the draft. That sort of a size player is always the player that teams are like, we need this guy. We need this sort of a player. We need this size of a player. So do you think there is an inflation that is given to some of these guys because we just go, well, 6'8" guys who can sort of shoot and defend, they're just not going to be available all the time, so we've got to make sure we get one. Do you see any of that inflation? Because there are a lot of these guys that get picked and they're terrible. Shout out to Stanley Johnson, Kevin Knox, whoever. These guys that go in the top 5, top 10, and not only because of their size profile, but in large part Cam Reddish. They keep getting chances because of the size profile as well. Do you see that level of inflation that occurs?
Of course. And it's almost the exact flip side of what we were talking about with Jace and the importance of his fit, where he lands is probably going to really aggressively skew what his outcome is. And Carter and, some of these bigger athletic wings who may not have as much upside necessarily, but they're a little more malleable in terms of their fit and what kind of teams they can go to while still finding that success and still reaching near their peak outcome. Because he's not going to be asked to be a ball dominant offensive creator or offensive engine, but when he's put in spots to cut off ball, crash the offensive glass, knock down spot up threes, and then defend at a high level, and then explore some of those ancillary skills that maybe help him expand that offensive profile down the road, it's just a lot cleaner path to success in a really, really long NBA career.
Because I am a professional and completely remembered that I was going to be talking about this guy next, let's talk about Noa Essingue, who is one of those wing-sized players. He played across in Germany, Ratio Farm Ulm. He is French, of course. Ratio Farm Ulm, well known for being the breeding ground of such legends like Killian Hayes. Essingue is incredibly young. He is close to the youngest player in this class, very close to Cooper Flagg in terms of age. Ratio Farm is one of those teams, Tyler, that enables a lot of the younger guys in Europe to play more, whereas other teams will bury these guys on the bench. The shooting numbers are a little bit of a concern, but he, maybe probably more so than a Carter Bryant, he really fits the, hey, look at the size of this guy and we'll see what develops here. He's 6'9", he's a wing, and maybe he can shoot, and maybe he defends, and maybe he's a ball handler, or maybe he's Tijan Salin. There's a lot of different things that can happen here with this guy, but again, it's that archetype, especially there's a lot of these French guys over the last few years coming out at this sort of size. And where do you sort of position Essingue in that sort of a grouping? Because the size is very clearly undeniable. It's just what else is he bringing?
He's been one of the more polarizing prospects in this draft. Some people love him, have him top 5, 8, 10 range. Others are a little more skeptical and have him in the 20s. I lean a little more skeptical. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. You see some of the flashes, the physical tools, how young he is, and you kind of try to project out that growth for him, and it can get really, really exciting. But like you mentioned, a lot of it is theoretical. Really high hips, there's some incredible defensive stuff, especially off ball, and in a team context, some of the on ball stuff gets a little inconsistent, but the flashes are incredible. And if he really hones down and connects and becomes more consistent with those fundamentals, he could be a nasty, nasty defender. As a play finisher, he's awesome in transition, awesome cutting, crashing the boards, some fun short roll playmaking stuff from him too. But the shot still needs so much work, and he goes through stretches where it looks really reliable, at least off the catch. That's probably all he's going to have to get to, is just, can you be average off the catch? That'll hopefully be enough, but anything off the bounce right now is a long ways off in terms of shooting. Some fun slashing stuff, especially from the second side, but all of that stuff is also predicated on him being a reliable shooter off the catch to draw those long closeouts. And if he's not doing that, the offensive role for him gets pretty minimal. It unfortunately turns into Jared Vanderbilt pretty quickly.
when I come in and do this stuff, I'm not studying it 365 days a year like you are. So immediately I come in and player comps are a thing that we do. And it's not to say this player is going to be like this guy. I think people know that by now. But like I come in and go, okay, I heard this story last year, a 6'10", very, very young French player who, there are flashes of shooting here, but maybe he defends. And like he said, his name was Tijaan Salan. And I don't know if I've seen a worse top 10 pick in their first season outside of maybe Cody Williams, who's in the same draft class, but that's beside the point. Like, how does he differ from what Salan did? Because Tijaan Salan came in, couldn't shoot threes, couldn't shoot twos. He struggled shooting in Europe the year before. He had the size, he had the youth, he had the appeal. But what's the difference between these sort of players?
Noah is way more polished. Like the basketball IQ, the awareness, the processing speed, all of that is way, way higher than where Salan was this time last year. Salan impressed because of the physical tools, and the work rate was out of this world. He wasn't always doing positive stuff on the court, but you always felt him out there because he was the effort level was that high, and that alone with the physical tools can be really enticing. Essingue has a lot of that similar stuff, but the awareness, the processing speed, the IQ at the same stage is significantly higher for Noah right now.
It is going to be intriguing to see how this stuff plays out because of the types of players or the groupings of players that are so similar. We've had hits and misses of these guys over the time frame. But like, if these guys hit, these 6'9" two-way wings hit, like the value of them's through the roof. Like that is such a key driver in so many championship teams in NBA history, and people are going to be taking those chances there. In terms of where you think Essingue is, like, not necessarily a fit, but like how high is too high? Like you see people that would have him in the top 10 and you go, is that crazy to you? Can you squint and see how the upside makes sense?
Yeah, and I could definitely see a team falling in love with him in the late lottery and just taking that swing, especially if they have two picks in the lottery or multiple first round picks and they're trying to take a swing on one and they think he's the highest upside. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're walking away with, Noa Essingue and the late lottery, and then maybe someone like Jace Richardson later in the first, or someone a little more polished, like Ryan Kalkbrenner, or just an older guy. I think that's really an intriguing draft approach. I mean, you mentioned Salan last year, and if a team's going to swing on him that high, I wouldn't see why anything is out of the question. And Noah's already being as productive at his age in a professional league. He's kind of that Ulm staff has been hyping him up for a couple of years now, where they were really excited about him even last year. So the upside with him is very real. It's just how quickly and feasible is it that he's going to get there.
Would you say it would be a fair sort of idea if someone, say, took Dylan Harper at pick 2 and then maybe they were crying out for some forwards and happened to get Noa Essingue at pick 14? Do you think that would make a little bit of sense?
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me at all. I wouldn't love the fit, just because the lack of shooting is a little tricky there. That floor spacing gets a little messy, but he's a smart player, great physical tools. You wouldn't be able to play him and Jeremy Sohan together ever. But
yeah, and him and Castle would end up being a problem. Yeah, you're right. That's such a problem with so many of these guys, is that you got to have the correct guys around them when they can't shoot. Otherwise, they just stand around and what are you doing here? And how are you going to be able to grow if you're not given those opportunities? And that leads to a whole cascade sort of impact. We've got 2 more guys that we are going to come back and talk about, including another European big man, which I've been practicing how to say this guy's name, so I might as well just get into it right now. All right, here we go. But I gotta make sure. I'm gonna nail this. Bogoljub Marković. The Marković easy. Bogoljub. I know people are gonna call him Bogey, but I gotta get the name right. It's Bogoljub Marković. Is that correct?
Sounds great to me. I just go with Bogey because I've struggled with the first name all year. And at Hoop Summit, everyone was just calling him Bogey, so I've stuck with that.
So he is a tall, big man coming out of Serbia, playing for Mega Basket, which we've seen a million players come out of Mega over the years. He's 6'11". His passing numbers are interesting, and I don't know, we've seen a couple of passing big men come out of Mega in the past that have made an impact on the NBA. He shot 39% from three. Is he just this prototypical European modern big man who shoots, who passes, who like rebound numbers are not too bad? He's just one of those guys, again, that sort of not factory approach, but this type of player that is coming across relatively often.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. So before I got to see him at Nike Hoop Summit this year, and he was one of the ones I was most excited to see because I frankly hated the tape going into Hoop Summit. I didn't get the hype with the guy. I thought he was kind of soft. I didn't like the way he moved. And then I saw him in person, and I just did a total 180 on my eval for him because his IQ, his communication, his physicality, the work rate, and then the offensive versatility, along with some of the defensive upside, was so impressive that it's like, oh, it just clicked for me. It's like, okay, there it is. That's what Jonathan Givony has been, hyping up. What I think Wasserman and Sam Vecini had mentioned him a couple months ago as well. And, when they first brought him up, I'm like, I just don't see it. And then you see it in person, and it's a totally different experience. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a late first round guy. I think top 40 in that kind of range of guaranteed contracts in the early second round would probably be the floor at this point. And that he's so smart. He, especially out of the short roll, you get him in the middle of the floor. He can turn face up, knock down jumpers, spray it out to cutters, to shooters. Really smart passer, really physical, competitive player. And that entire week, the coaches raved about his work ethic, his coachability. His teammates loved him. It was just a really, really impressive week for him.
How bad is he defensively?
I don't think he's bad. I think he's really physical. He's got to get stronger. I like the frame generally. Is he going to be able to switch out on ones and twos consistently? Probably not. But I think he moves his feet well. He sits down in the stance for most of the time. He's just got to get stronger and a little more flexible. But that was all stuff that he was working on. So I'd imagine in a couple of years, I'd be shocked if it doesn't improve pretty significantly.
He's got an interesting skill set. The assists are nice. The three-point shooting is nice. The scoring is good. The usage is pretty solid. The size is there. He is a really interesting player. The game translates well from a fantasy perspective. For those of you thinking about it that way, again, it's just there are a lot of these guys that don't work out. There are some that do. But he's coming from a very well-renowned program who's produced plenty of NBA big men, and maybe he is the next one. And this last guy we're going to talk about here, Tyler, is a guy that I profiled last year, and we went in, I don't know if it was with you, I can't remember who it was that we profiled Nique Clifford with, but we went into detail on him, and then he decided, no, I'm going back to school. And I went, that's annoying. My guy, you're already 22 in a weak draft class, come out now. But it does seem like he has improved his draft stock. The problem I'm going to have here with this is he is 23 years of age. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously incredibly old when you're talking about Essingue being literally 5 years younger and Cooper Flagg being 5 years younger. Not 4, like 5 years younger. It is a huge, huge deal. And Clifford was good enough last year, I thought, to be a first-round pick. He's going to be a first-round pick this year. What did you see, though, I guess, the difference between what Nique Clifford did last season? What did he improve on this season that made that general opinion of him rise?
So last year I had him as a first round guy as well. I would have been, if I was a team in the 20s, I would have been begging him to stay in and try and convince him.
Or compare him to, say, someone like Jacoby Walter, who went around that spot last season.
Yeah.
Like, how do you view those two together?
And the upside with Jacoby was obviously way higher and more exciting. But the baseline and almost, I don't want to say guarantee because none of the stuff is a guarantee, but I feel really, really confident in what you're going to get from Nique Clifford. And I think it's going to look something like what we've seen from Aaron Wiggins and Christian Brown, where is he going to be a superstar? No. But is he going to make his lineups better? Yes. And last year in the tournament, like in that game against Virginia, we saw a little bit more on-ball creation and passing and facilitating and on-ball scoring. It's like, oh, that's fun. Okay, so you do have a little more of this to your game. And this year we saw it expand even more while also still being an awesome defender and rebounder. And his positional rebounding is insanely good. And he just steadily improved as a shooter. He's not going to be a lights out shooter. He's going to be super inconsistent, but his inconsistencies, from month to month are 45% one month and then 30% the next. Whereas a couple of years ago, it was 32% one month and then 20% the next. And that's untenable. So the fact that he's steadily improved in that realm is a terrific defender, awesome rebounder, and really smart and creative connective passer, finding teammates and keeping the ball moving, making that extra pass. He's just one of these plug and play guys where basically any lineup in the league could use a guy like him.
You brought up the name Christian Braun, which is an interesting name to me because of that. He's the connective ability with those other guys around him. Now, Clifford's 6'6", most people consider him a forward. Braun obviously plays the 2 in Denver. In super big lineups, is Clifford's shooting ability or threat of his shooting enough for him to be able to play down at the 2 in those bigger lineups, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's fine enough where, just standard spot up stuff. I think he'll be, I'm not worried about it at all. And it's gotten to the point where it's good. It should attract those long closeouts, which then allow him to get into the mid-range, attack downhill, and then also utilize that passing ability to counter those scrambling defensive rotations. And that's where he turns into way more than what he was last year, where I'm not totally sure that he would have been able to do that as consistently as he is now, where it's like, now it's all right, hey, let's go get 15 to 20 minutes as a rookie. And here's some legit off-ball creation responsibilities with the second unit and the toughest defensive assignment. Have fun.
What would you say to people, me, who would say that's cool and all, but you did it beating up on kids who are 5 years younger than you? And yeah, that has changed a little bit with NIL and players coming back, but you had a chance to come out last season. You didn't, and you increase all this stuff when you are 23 years of age, older than Anthony Edwards, I'm pretty sure. How do we put that into context? Because, again, you look at his numbers at 19, 20, 21, they're not good enough. They're not in that range, and he did it with significant advantages, experience and physical advantages. How do you rationalize that part of it?
Given the current CBA and the limitations that the first and second apron are put on teams, you have to have guys who can play early and for cheap. And that's exactly what Nique Clifford does. I'm sorry to kind of keep dogging on him, but that's a home run swing. But are you confident that he's going to be anywhere near as productive or reliable, or can give you 15 to 20 solid minutes in his age 23 season? Whereas I'm pretty confident Nique's going to be able to do that right off the bat. He's going to be one of these guys that's not going to go out there and make mistakes, does the dirty work, does the little things, compliments everyone else on the team. And to be able to do that as a cheap rookie, I think is really, really important, especially with this new CBA.
Big censor just came in there. Just as you said who that player's name was, he didn't want to dog on it cut out, so people may not have heard who you said. So who was the player you were comparing him to that you might not get good minutes out of age 23?
No, just because we were talking about him earlier, Tijan Saloon. Are we confident that he's young, he's raw, he's hypothetical. Oh my God, in 5 years he could be awesome. He could also not be in the league. So
it is very true, and he's one of those conundrums with dealing with these age differences. But what if in 5 years he's awesome? But yeah, what if in 5 years he's never playing and he never even develops a baseline of being or even a replacement level guy, which is definitely a risk with so many of these different sort of guys. But the other risk we have now, Tyler, is that we have run out of time. So I will thank you again for coming on and chatting about Carter Bryant, Noa Essengue, Jase Richardson, Bogoljub Marković, and of course, Nique Clifford. And tell people, Tyler, what is happening over at No Ceilings, what you guys are putting out at the moment.
We got a ton of podcasts going over on the No Ceilings podcast feed, 3 to 5-ish a week, depending on our availability and schedules. No Ceilings YouTube. I've been doing a bunch of film breakdowns on guys. All our podcasts are up there as well. We have season-long highlights on basically anyone, especially the first-round guys. NoCeilingsNBA.com, writing about everyone. And then this Friday, our draft guide is dropping, so that will be available. Keep an eye out. NoCeilingsNBA.com, No Ceilings on socials. But we're we have like 2 to 3 pages per prospect. I believe we're going 100 prospects deep. Wow. So it's the biggest one we've done yet. Incredible graphics. Team has been working really hard on it. So we're really proud of it. Really excited for that to drop later this week.
It's always a must grab for me, the No Ceilings draft guide. So I'll be getting that again when it comes out, Tyler. I look forward to it, and I look forward to doing this again with you next year. Thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.
And that is another show in the books. Shout out to Tyler for coming on and chatting about those draft prospects. We're going to have more draft stuff coming later today, including a profile on... as I just completely forget how to speak. A profile on Dylan Harper. That is coming up. Subscribe. That means you'll never miss an episode. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.